He is one of drag racing's first big stars, a Florida guy, playing off his roots by naming his car Swamp Rat and driving them right past some of the California heroes who dominated the early days of the sport. He revolutionized Top Fuel by moving the engine behind the driver. His pioneering efforts on behalf of safety surpassed only by his performance record. First dragster to go 170, 180, 200, 240, 250, 260, and 270 miles an hour. At age 79, he is still going strong, and tonight is a pleasure to welcome Don Garlits back to Wind Tunnel. Thanks for your time. It's good to see you tonight.
My pleasure to be here, Dave.
You came here expecting to race, I guess it'd be fair to call him a protege, Gwynn, in a match race, and he ended up sick and in the hospital. So we'll send him our best wishes. He's going to be okay, isn't he?
Well, we certainly hope so. Everyone should hold him up in their prayers.
He's, of course, paralyzed as a result of a racing crash, but you two have gotten back together and doing a series of match races all over the country this year, and knowing that you're both kind of competitive guys, who's ahead? Who's won the most? You are. Okay. Why are you doing this? What's it all about? It's called match racing for a cause.
Well, you know, Daryl has that foundation trying to find the cure for paralysis. Obviously, he's paralyzed.
Yeah.
And he's doing such a wonderful job with it. And him and his dad got this idea to build these two electric dragsters that he could actually drive the way he runs his wheelchair.
Yep.
And they have little golf cart motors in them.
Yep.
We originally were going to go 75, 80 miles an hour with them, but Daryl had a little bit of trouble with the little joystick, I call it, you know,
Yep.
how he controls it. And so we had to slow him down to about 35, and he's comfortable at 35. And he's won quite a few of the rounds, but I mean, I'm ahead.
You're still ahead.
So I'm ahead one round.
That foundation, by the way, provides lots of wheelchairs for other athletes in the same situation. So, Daryl, we wish you a speedy recovery. You get over what's bothering you there. Let's go back to match racing. It's a long-standing tradition in drag racing. The promoter used to book a big star and then maybe a not quite so big star, and they'd run 2 out of 3 and hope they sold enough extra tickets to pay for the money. I remember seeing Swamp Rat for the first time at Cahokia, Missouri, 8th mile downhill strip into a cornfield, and you racing a car called the Guzzler. And it didn't strike me until years later that those match races always seemed to go to the 3rd round. It seemed like one guy would win one and one would win the other and set up the big 3rd race. Was that just coincidence, or was that kind of planned that way?
You know, I made it come out that way because it was better if it went 3 rounds. And so what I usually did, I gave the guy the choice of the lanes for the first round and ran my car easy. And they usually won the first round. And then we swapped lanes immediately. And now I had a little tune-up on my car, and also there's 2 rubber tracks down the strip because this is before sprayed tracks and everything.
Right.
And I made a real good run then in the 2nd round and won. And the low ET, we always agreed the low ET of the first 2 rounds would get the lane choice for the final. And so I had lane choice. So they very seldom beat me in those type of situations.
And the fans got to see the best possible show, which was 2 out of 3, and you
that was
come
the
from
whole
behind.
show, right?
So did you have a favorite match race opponent?
Yes, Tommy Ivo.
Tommy Ivo, TV Tommy.
TV Tommy. And the reason for that was Tommy was in the business to make money, and Tommy didn't win big national events. He was the showman. And so we could run a 2 out of 3 match race on any type of condition or track. It didn't make difference where it was. We set our cars to run on that type of condition. We didn't have to blow any parts up. Tommy didn't care whether he won or lost. He wanted to make the 3 runs also. We always usually went to 3 rounds. And we made money. There was the match races with Shirley Muldowney were exciting, but you didn't make as much money because you had to lean on the parts because she didn't cut you any quarter.
So she was pretty serious about
Yes.
this. Did you give her as hard a time when she first came up as I have heard you gave her?
Well,
How about being a woman in a man's sport?
In the very beginning, I was really for her. I got her license. I signed it the first time and got her match raced her lots of times. but it was beating her all the time. This is the first year, and she just got really nasty about it and said, "I'm going to build a new car next year, then I'll get you." I said, "Well, I happen to be building a new one too." And so it just went from there. And then finally by 1981, see, this was 76 when she was really starting to get better. By 81, she'd really gotten some good help and good cars, and she'd learned how to really do it. And she was beating me up pretty good in the AHRA World Championship Series, which I pretty much had a handle on. I won that one 10 times. But 81, I didn't win. And we had some pretty good words during that series.
So it really got bitter once you got to be just racer versus racer, never mind male versus.
And she finally figured out I was the one to beat.
Sure.
In other words, if she could put me down at will, she would get the publicity.
Need a commercial break. We're going to come back and talk about those California guys and what it was like to go out and beat them for the first time. We're talking with Don Garlits. We'll be right back. Welcome back. My guest is Big Daddy Don Garlits, Florida guy. The sport was California-based for a long time. Wally Parks kind of got the NHRA started out there. Is it accurate to say that that was sort of the mecca of drag racing, and that by extension maybe a guy in South Florida was sort of out in the sticks somewhere?
Absolutely. Swamps, to be
out
exact.
in the swamps. The swamp rat.
That place for California, that's a desert, right? Well, it's true. All of the aircraft factories were out there, the aircraft mechanics, and it kind of came from all of that, all the fancy machine work.
The hot rod stuff.
And after the war, World War II, they all started little shops making heads and cams and stuff. And if you wanted a good part, it had to come out of California. It's not that way today, but that's how it was back in the early 50s.
So did you dream of the day when you'd get to go to California and try to beat the big guys? And who were the big guys? Who was the guy you most wanted to beat when you were on your way?
As a matter of fact, just dream of going to California, whether you beat anybody or not. The top guy in California when I really got going was the Emery Cook, the Cook and Bedwell car. They had just went 166 miles an hour, and that was an absolute hero to us. Because the experts had said this time was impossible.
Did you name the car Swamp Rat, or did somebody else name it that?
Seto Pastoian from Detroit did that. That was kind of a slur at the time, and it turned into a good thing. But he said, he put an ad in Drag News, "It's no wonder they call you the Swamp Rat."
And Big Daddy, who was the first person to refer to you as Big Daddy?
That was Bernie Partridge from the NHRA. He blurted that out over the PA in 1962. They were on gasoline, and I was working for Chrysler. They had me build a gas dragster and go compete with the guys at NHRA at Indy. And the gas guys were all kind of like sportsman racers, younger, and I came in there from a fuel, but with a gas dragster, and I was old. I had my little toddlers with me, and they were calling me Daddy, and I wasn't running too good, you know, and they were having fun of me. And then I set the record, and Bernie Partridge says, "Well, we'll have to call him Big Daddy from now on."
And it stuck, and thus, although these many years later, that was before what you told me was your big breakthrough race, which was 65 in Bakersfield. Tell me about that.
Well, this was a huge race. I would always like to think of as the biggest fuel race ever. 123 top fuel dragsters showed up for a $7,500 prize, which was unheard of. Usually it was $1,000.
Yep.
But Gil Cohen from New York National Speedway had went back to Bakersfield and put the race on, and he took that New York thinking, big money.
Yep.
And the place, they had so many people, was unreal. They ran 64 cars on Saturday. The winner got to set out to run the winner of a 32-car field on Sunday, which made 6 rounds each day, and I got the honor of running my own car in the final on Sunday because the Marvin Swartz car, which was sponsored by us, won on Sunday, and then I'd won on Saturday.
So your teammate went through the Saturday round and wins.
No, I went through the Saturday round.
You went through the Saturday round and then ended up racing your team car
on Sunday for overall.
To take that, you California guys.
Oh, they really, I mean, they just had a fit.
Yeah, yeah. We're going to have to call this guy Big Daddy for good. That's a funny story. I'm going to fast forward to some modern day stuff. You're still very much a sage, a source of wisdom on the state of drag racing today, and we're going to get to that when we come back and continue our conversation with Don Garlits. Don't go anywhere. Talking with drag racing pioneer Don Garlits. I mentioned that strip in Cahokia, Missouri, downhill into a cornfield, and the big issue back then was speed. You were going down through there 30 or 40 miles an hour faster than any of the local guys. So, you know, track conditions are always a trade-off versus speed. You're always a pioneer in terms of safety, building the rear engine car and all the rest of that. I'm curious about how you feel about the safety state of the sport today when we're over 300 miles an hour. The tracks have had to be shortened to 1,000 feet, constant concerns about tires. Where are we on the Don Garlits safety yardstick right now?
We're in a tough spot. I mean, I'll tell it like it is. The cars should be slowed down. There's rules. I mean, they say, well, you know, Top Fuel's supposed to be no rules. There's a lot of rules in Top Fuel. We should go back to quarter-mile racing. I hate to say that. I mean, I know that'll go against the grain of some people, but the race is a quarter mile. It always has been. It was only shortened to 1,000 feet because of safety concerns, and it was supposed to be temporary while they dehorned these cars. Mm-hmm. And it would be a very good thing to do that, because the cars need to go back to quarter mile, come just under the 300 mile an hour mark. They could be held that way easy with tires, wings, fuel pumps. There's a lot of things to do that. Mm-hmm. You can't expect the crews to do that. Their job is to make them go faster, and that's all they want to know. Yeah. That's what they do. They need somebody else to get in there and say, this is how it's going to be. We're going back to quarter-mile racing, and this is the rules, like it or lump it.
Are the spectators going to accept that? I mean, one of the arguments is that, the fans expect to see the cars going faster and faster. Obviously, there's got to be a limit somewhere.
That's not exactly true. I mean, the NASCAR proved that. They slowed the cars down, and the fans still go to the race.
What an interesting observation.
The fans want to see side-by-side racing, and they want to see a more even playing field. The rules that would be implemented to slow the cars down to at 300 or just under it for a quarter mile would level the field for the underfunded teams, because the parts are so good today. When you took that kind of horsepower out of the engine, it will last a long time.
How much horsepower are we talking about taking out, do you think?
Well, I would say 1,500 to 2,000.
Take away that much from 8,000. I keep hearing 8,000. Is that a good number?
I make this statement, and I stand on it. There is no place in automobile side-by-side racing for an 8,000 horsepower engine. They're just too dangerous. Now, I like to go fast, and I contend that I would like to know what is the absolute limit of acceleration. So we should have an event every year, not side by side. All the timing out of the center of the track, have the whole track, run one car at a time.
Wow.
The gloves are off. Let's just see how fast they will go. No spectators down beside the track. If they blow up, they blow up. Yeah. It's the guy and the machine. I bet they go 350 miles an hour.
It'd be fun to watch. It'd be a great TV event.
Oh, yeah, it would be. And
what a great idea. We're running out of time. I knew we would. Give me a quick assessment, because drag racing's always been such a grassroots activity, the connection between local racers and fans and all the rest of that. Are the grassroots healthy?
Yes. The local tracks are doing well with the sportsman racing. They don't get the Top Fuel cars anymore. That's a minus. Yeah. But they've got lots of good sportsman racers, and I've been in the sportsman ranks now for a couple of years. They're nice guys, and they're out there just doing it for a hobby without sponsors and everything. And I think that part is still good.
Are you still racing that Dodge? I've got less than 30 seconds. Are you still racing that Dodge Charger?
Yeah, the Dodge Challenger.
Or Challenger, I'm sorry. How fast have you, what
10:06, 133.
Which is just perfect for you and for Pat
That's
now,
right. Pat asked me, please don't drive those Top Fuel dragsters anymore.
He's 79 years old. I guess he can give that up as long as you're still out there and busy doing it. Don Garlits, it's a pleasure having you here.
My pleasure, Dave.
We're going to take a commercial break, come back with eye candy. Don't go anywhere. It's Wind Tunnel, and we're glad you're here to be part of it. Eye candy music selection this week by a guy who doesn't like the tendency toward occasional hip-hop-ish kinds of selections. A couple of things I want to make sure we mention. The NHRA finale will be at, they go Phoenix, Pomona, I guess it is. At Pomona will be the last round of the Daryl Gwynn and Don Garlits match race for a cause. So I want to make sure we got in a plug for that. And also for Don's Museum, because I just thought we ought to plug the guy's museum, and then we got through 3 segments of talking and walking down memory lane and all the rest of that. I didn't get it done. It's in Ocala, Florida. It's right off I-75. If you're going south, it's there on the left. You can't miss it, and it's wonderful. It is filled with memorabilia, not just about Garlits racing, but about drag racing in general. It's absolutely worth a stop. So go by there, and then they're going to race those electric cars, and then they're going to auction them at the Barrett Jackson Scottsdale thing to raise money in January for the foundation. Now, we go from 79-year-old Don Garlits to next week's show, which is going to be all about kids. James Busher is going to be here. He is the perhaps unlikely leader of the Camping World Truck Series, and Joseph Newgarden, who leads the points in the Indy Lights Championship. He went over to Europe, took a crack at that. He's come back to America. He's racing in the States. He's considered one of America's hot young racing prospects. With that, the TV show is over. The fun continues at speed.com. Oh, check it out on Wind Tunnel Extra.